Special edition of Sit Down Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Malik Wright. Got Daniel running in the back office, as you guys may have heard. Breaking news: Bengals linebacker Logan Wilson has just signed a 4-year extension to remain with the team. And this, we recently just talked on State of the Jungle about this and why it's so important for the Bengals to be able to keep this core, this crop of players together. And yeah, they done that. They done that in a big way. Um, we know that T. Higgins is on the horizon. We know that Joe Burrow's contract is also on the horizon. But the fact that they were able to get Logan Wilson done, a piece that a lot of people, to be quite frank, weren't sure if he was expendable or not. They weren't sure if he was a part of if he was going to be the odd man out. And I saw those questions starting to be posed. I saw people starting to ask those questions about Logan Wilson and if the Bengals were in a situation in which they had to make a decision, would Logan Wilson be left out of the equation? Well, we got our answer there. The Bengals re-signed Logan Wilson, and I think it's important. Logan Wilson is a guy that I consider to be one of the leaders of this defense. He's a guy that I think um, he provides a lot of plays. He makes a lot of the other linebackers' lives a lot easier. Guys like Jermaine Pratt allows them to play a lot more freely because he sort of does a lot of the grunt work. So the fact that the Bengals were able to get him back in the fold, right? I can't stress enough how important continuity is. And I feel like that's the theme of the Bengals offseason. That has been the theme of the Bengals offseason: continuity, continuity, continuity. And what do I mean by that? They kept their coaching staff in place: offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. Um, and a lot of people thought last year they'd probably lose. They'd probably lose one of their coordinators, one of their coaches, and they were able to keep them in the fold. And now you fast forward to the players, it's right down to the players. We're seeing the same exact thing take place. Players that you guys might think the Bengals might not be able to keep, they're finding a way to keep it. And I spoke to about it on State of the Jungle the other night. I think this speaks to the culture that Zach Taylor has built here in Cincinnati. And that starts right up at the top front, the front office, all the way down. It's a trickle down effect, and the fact that you're seeing, you know, them making the necessary moves and doing things that are unbengal like to sort of keep these players in the fold is extremely important. And it's pretty cool to see. We're definitely going to get to some of your questions as well. So if you guys have questions, make sure you guys drop them down in the comment section. I'll be sure to answer as many questions as possible. While we're here, Huday, that dude, Jake C. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys tuning in on this impromptu episode as we discuss the contract for Logan Wilson. But again, I think these are now two things, right, Daniel? Where they were able to keep Jermaine Pratt in the fold. They were now able to keep Logan Wilson in the fold. No doubt, if a guy like Hakeem Davis Gaither, takes strides and makes leaps and bounds this season, he could potentially find himself in the fold. So it's really, really cool to see them being able to go out there and do things that are unbangle like. But more importantly, this is the fun part, right? This is the part of retaining talent that is so important. And this is the part where you now have to make the correct decisions, because if you go through this entire process, you want to make sure that you're making the right decisions. You want to make sure that you're building a sustainable winner and a long-term winner for the future. And I think the Bengals have been hitting this offseason out of the park, from the offensive line to keeping their own talent. And it's just been great to see. Danny, what are your thoughts?
So, I mean, my biggest thoughts are the fact that, like you said, continuity,
Hmm.
continuity. That's where people get the NFL so twisted. It's like, okay, how do you win year after year? How does my team make the Super Bowl? How does my team do well? If you have the same head coach, if you have the same offense coordinator, if you have the same defense coordinator, if you have the same quarterback, the same linebacker, like, you get my drift. If there's continuity on a team, roster wise, coaching wise, you're going to have success. The main reason why a lot of quarterbacks don't succeed, I look at Derek Carr. He had many different offense coordinators year after year
Hmm.
after year. Why do defenses not succeed year after year? Because they don't have continuity with the coaching staff. They change, different structures of how their plays are called. But when you look at this team, they've got DJ Reader, they've
Yep.
still got Trey Hendrickson, they still got Sam Hubbard. They lost almost nothing besides their secondary. And you could say their secondary got younger. So those are definitely my thoughts. Question for you, Malik. What was
Hmm.
your initial reaction to, when you saw the number that Logan Wilson got?
Um, I wasn't really shocked, honestly. Logan Wilson is one of the up and coming linebackers in the National Football League. He's a guy that I know for a fact the Bengals and staff coveted coming out of Wyoming. He's a guy that they wanted to keep in the fold. They want to keep all these guys in the fold. Listen, if you want to be a Bengal and they want you here, they'll try to find a way to make it happen. And this is one of those things where, it speaks to the culture that they've built here. It speaks to players wanting to be here. That these are the things that are very, very important. So the fact that they were able to get the Logan Wilson contract done is really, really cool. And again, the number is not really too surprising, especially when you consider where the linebacker market is at currently. Um, and we kind of spoke to that. Like, I know there were some people that probably thought he probably could have got a lot more. What did you think of the numbers? I thought it was a bargain, honestly. I didn't think it was a bad price tag at all. I thought it made a lot of sense. And again, I think that speaks to I think that speaks to where the linebacker market is currently in the National Football League. Honestly, that's not indicative of the talent that Logan Wilson is. It's not indicative of, what the Bengals feel like they can get out of him. That's indicative of just where the linebacker market is. And the fact of the matter is, they were able to get their guy, a guy that they drafted, a guy that they've built with, a guy that they've grown with. They were to keep him in the fold for the long term future. So this is just really, really awesome to see because for a while there, it was very difficult for the Cincinnati Bengals to draft talent and watch that talent do great, and then some of the talent walked out the door. But the fact that they're able to keep a lot of these people in the fold, that's really, really special.
Yeah, no, I agree. When I look at how the entire team's structured right now, you still need T. Higgins to get signed. You still need Joe Burrow. But the fact that Logan Wilson got paid,
Mhm.
and it's good for him, man. He,
Yeah,
he got his contract. It's
yeah.
I think 11 million for the first 2 years.
Mhm.
Good for him, man. So
He's
that's
deserving of it,
yeah.
man. That's a guy that made plays at play after play after play. He dealt with a nagging shoulder injury that was bothering him a little bit, and he was able to fight through that and play through that. This guy's been an absolute warrior for this Bengals franchise, and he's been a true leader on the defensive side of the football, and a guy that has made Luan Romo's defense um, easier to grasp for a lot of these other players because of the way that they play, because
Yeah.
of the way that he plays and how he minds his X's and O's. Again, we were at the NFL Combine a couple of years ago. I remember when Chad Muma came out. Chad Muma, guys, if you guys don't know who that is, he's an up and coming linebacker. He's a guy that I'm really, really high on. He plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He absolutely raved about Logan Wilson's, leadership, about him as a mentor. He talked about how there is nobody he'd rather pick their brain for him from than Logan Wilson. So that's all the way at college. These two played together at Wyoming. So he spoke glowingly about Logan Wilson. And so that seems to be the theme with this guy, right? This guy is just a leader among players, and he's a guy that's easy to follow. He also leads by example. He sets the right example. So it's not shocking to see the Bengals wanting to keep the governor in the fold.
All right, so we can get to some of these comments. We got a bunch of comments right now. First off, we appreciate you guys dropping down your questions, your comments. We're going to get to all of you guys. Our guy Greg Luther said, Malik,
Greg, what's up, man?
is T. Higgins going to be next?
I mean, you'd certainly like to hope, to say that. I don't know the order in which the Bengals are trying to get these contracts done. I imagine they like to get Joe Burrow done sooner rather than later. He's still a guy that they want to get get done. He's a guy that they're going to get done. T. Higgins is once again another guy that they want to keep. You don't make the moves that the Bengals made, to just sort of sit on that money. They want to keep T. Higgins. They want to keep Joe Burrow, of course, right, in the fold. But that's why you go out there and you extend and lower the cap hit of a guy like Joe Mixon's contract to make these things much more affordable.
So we got a question from Dwight Patton. He's asking about the actual contract. He said 11 milli for each, or both. This basically what Ian said is it's going to average 11 million for each of the first 2 years. So
Mhm,
he's going to get 11 million, 11 million, and then after that, I'm sure they're going to restructure.
mhm.
Kind of work around that.
Or re, re or
Yeah.
or extend it. And the Bengals don't like to call it a true restructure or
Mhm.
reshuffling, if you will. We could call it a reshuffling of contract.
Exactly. So we got Brian Scott. He said DJ Reader next. What's your thoughts, DJ Reader?
I think DJ Reader is a guy that the Bengals 100 want to keep in the fold. I know people are saying, "Oh, well, 30 years old." Listen, it's not that. Listen, there are guys that are the engine to this football team. DJ Reader was one of the first big signings that the Bengals were able to make when this coaching staff took over, and the Bengals beat out the Denver Broncos for the services of DJ Reader. Of course, DJ Reader is a guy that this team feels again, it is just an absolute plug in the middle of that defense. He makes Lou Anarumo's defense run a lot smoother, right? I think the big thing for them is continuing to get like three techs to help DJ Reader's life there in the trenches, if you will. But yeah, 100%. I think that a guy like DJ Reader is a guy that the Bengals are going to look to keep in the fold, whether that's restructuring of his contract, or I'm sorry, extending of his contract this year, or even next year. So DJ Reader is definitely a guy the Bengals want to keep in the fold, 100%.
So we got a couple questions.
Sure.
The platypus, our guy, he said, "Is it a dream to think that Joe said everybody else is going to get paid and that he's going to take what's left?" What's your thoughts on that?
Is it a dream? I don't know. I can't speak to what's going on in those negotiations. All I could tell you is that what I told you guys in the beginning when I first was being asked about this entire process, I knew that Joe Burrow wanted to keep his guys around him and do whatever it took that was necessary to make sure that happened. I've been sort of like respectful towards the entire process and not really asking for updates because I'm of the belief it's going to get done when it gets done, and they're gonna find a way to make it all happen. So I definitely think Joe Burrow. I'm excited to see how the numbers kind of shake out for Joe Burrow and see what the ultimate contract looks like. But 100% keeping guys like T. Higgins, Logan Wilson in the fold was a part of the plan.
So we got a question from Eric. He said, "What if everyone's wrong?" Or this is more of a statement, but he
Mhm.
said, "What if everyone's wrong and Burrow isn't demanding to be the highest paid player and is working on a creative deal that allows them to sign more players?" What's your thoughts on potentially Burrow doing that?
I can never speak to Joe Burrow's intentions. I don't know the guy personally. I've never had a conversation with him, but what I do know is, um, I feel as if, and I've always said, I don't. I think that's more so the label of other people, right? In terms of they want to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. They want to make sure they have that high price tag. I've never got the, I've never got the notion that that was what his end goal was, if you will. I've always got the end goal that he wanted to make sure that the Bengals had a sustainable winner for the long term future because that's what he genuinely plays the game of football for, to bring championships to Cincinnati.
So we got a couple questions about
And
Cheeto.
guys, keep the questions
Yeah.
coming. We really appreciate you guys so much for tuning in to this impromptu sit down with Malik Wright as we react to Logan Wilson's contract extension. Again, appreciate you guys tuning into the sit down with Malik Wright presented by First Star Logistics. We are not at the First Star Logistics studio, but we're live from my in-home studio, makeshift First Star Logistics studio, as we talk about all these things with you guys. If you guys could do us a huge favor, please drop a like to this video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you guys don't miss when we go live on State of the Jungle every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
So we got two questions, both about Cheeto from Fred Betts and from our guy Brian Scott. They said, "I think Cheeto is gone after this year, unfortunately." And Brian said, "What's the plan with Cheeto?"
You know, I again, that's one of those things where if anybody that knows me, they know I'm a huge Cheetah Bay Awuzie fan. Been that way since before he was a Cincinnati Bengal. I would tend to agree. It looks like that, especially with the drafting of the cornerbacks that they've drafted and the investment. It seems like that they have made at that position where Cam Taylor, Britt, DJ Turner, guys like that seem like they're the future out there for the Cincinnati Bengals. I would love a world where we're able to keep a guy like Cheetah Bay Awuzie in the fold, but you can't help but think that that guy is going to get offered a boatload of money to go play cornerback somewhere else when his contract is up because he certainly has made a name for himself here in Cincinnati and turned a lot of heads.
Yeah. Our guy Bradley Frost, he's asking about Joe Burrow's contract. I know we're going for another prediction, but he said, "What's your prediction on total years for Burrow's contract?" He thinks it's going to be over 5 that everyone else is getting.
Yeah, I think that Joe Burrow's contract could be 5, 6 years, something like that. If I was a betting man, I would say, because you figure he's got 2 more years left on his deal currently. And that's 7 right here. Maybe 6, right? Maybe 6 years is the total. Um, at the end of the day, Joe Burrow's taking again, he's making probably sacrifices now for the betterment of the entire team to keep people in the fold. So that guy seems to be like a very smart person, if you will. He's gonna have another long-term contract down the pipeline as well. So is signing a 6-year contract, does that do him justice or does that hurt him, right? Because you'd have to think when it's time to dip back into that pool, the amount of money that these quarterbacks gonna be getting by that time is gonna be ridiculous, especially because if you figure if he signs for 6 years, it probably look like chump change currently. Because if you think about
Mhm.
it, the big thing a couple of years ago was quarterbacks getting paid $100 million. That was the big thing. Now you got quarterbacks that are exceeding that by a large amount. So right now we're looking at what some of these quarterbacks are signing for. Even with the Patrick Mahomes deal, you think about it, that was looked at as like a ridiculous amount of money. But now I think what he's like the sixth highest paid quarterback in the
Yeah.
National Football League. So at some point, these guys might definitely want to reshuffle and figure out a contract that works for them, that keeps them current. You don't. It's almost like getting an Xbox, right? You want to stay with the current gen. You don't want to
Yep.
be. You don't want to be with the last gen, gen console, if you will. So it's very similar to that. You want to make sure you're getting paid your worth.
And it's honestly kind of crazy because you make the great point. Like, it might actually be smarter for him to sign a smaller contract
Mm-hmm. hundred
because,
percent.
like, quarterback's a position where it's not like receiver or running back where you need to get your money. Like,
Mm-hmm.
knock on wood, obviously, but Joe Burrow is going to play till he's 30s,
Mm-hmm.
late 30s,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even early 40s. That's his type of play style. So for him, maybe it's like, hey, let me just go take a 4-year deal
Yeah.
and then because the money's still going to be there and you're probably going to get a higher contract after 4 years instead of signing a massive 7-year contract or something.
Right.
So another question for Fred Betts or more. So he said, shout out to Duke Tobin. I just want to get
Hundred
your
percent.
thoughts real quick. This is, I mean, I can't remember a time where the Bengals have paid this many players, and especially since they've got to go out and pay two other big names.
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on
I
Bengals front
I think
office?
that the Bengals front office has hit this out of the park. I don't know if you guys remember. For those of you who are here at the channel consistently, you guys probably remember me telling you what I was pretty much told. Essentially, the Bengals said that they would not let a 2015 situation happen again. Where remember they lost a boatload of talent that year to free agency. Um, they weren't willing to do that again because they saw how bad it could get. Right? They have been at the absolute mountaintop. They've come close to winning a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they came close to going back to Super Bowl just last year with a makeshift offensive line. You don't run the risk of blowing that up or watching that blow up in your face. If you have the opportunity to keep the talent that has helped you get to this point, guess what? You do that. You do that. Um, um, even if that means that you have to forsake paying two safeties that you guys like very, very much. The Bengals had a price tag that they believed that they were willing to pay for those safeties. Not that they didn't try to keep a Jesse Bates. It's not that they didn't try to keep a Von Bell into the fold, but it just didn't make sense logistically speaking, right? It's funny that I'm saying that first star logistics, but logistically speaking, it didn't make sense to keep to throw all your money at them when you know you have receiver, defensive tackle, defensive end, all these different pieces that you want to keep coming down the pipeline. So, yeah, I definitely think I think I think absolutely shout out to Duke Tobin front office for doing what they need to do in order to keep these pieces here in Cincinnati. Because listen, it's hard to build a winner. It's even harder to keep one though.
Yeah, I agree. The platypus asked a question. He said, "You probably answered this on State of the Jungle, but were you surprised that Trey Hendrickson's extension didn't create more cap space this year?"
Um, I wasn't really surprised, but I also like wasn't surprised, but I wasn't not surprised, if you will. Listen, that guy still has to get paid what he's worth at the end of the day. He's one of the premier pass rushers in the National Football League, and he should be paid as such, if you will. But I figured an extension of some sort was coming down the pipeline for Trey Hendrickson. So when I got the word that was the case, it made sense, and some other things still make sense. I'm just curious. Again, they've done all the things that they should do. If you're playing Madden and you're on playing franchise mode and get the general manager, these are the moves that probably all of you have probably made a bunch of times, and you said, you know what, this is what the Bengals should do. And now they probably won't do because it's not the Bengal way, but it seems like they've certainly turned over a new leaf and they're making the necessary um, adjustments to keep this roster intact.
Brian Scott's got another question. He said, "Do you think we are done at running back? I know Dalvin Cook is not signed with the Jets
Mhm.
yet."
Are you done at running back? I think the Bengals are comfortable with who they have at running back currently. I don't think that they'll be dipping in the Dalvin Cook pool at all.
Curtis Baldwin, shout out to Katie Blackburn.
Mhm.
Her mastery of the cap cannot go unnoticed. Which thoughts, Katie Blackburn?
Katie Blackburn. Props to the entire front office, honestly. Katie Blackburn, Duke Tobin, Troy, all of them. I think they've done a great job.
So the platypus has another
Mhm.
question. It's about training camp. He said, "Which players impressed you the most this training camp?" He said DJ Turner has really been his most
Mhm.
impressive player.
Cam Taylor Britt. Cam Taylor Britt has impressed me the most this training camp. That this is a guy that I thought struggled a lot in pass coverage last year, and it was inconsistent. And now we're seeing him take the necessary strides and necessary steps, and it's been pretty cool to see, to be completely honest with you as well. So yeah, hats off to um, hats off to Cam Taylor-Britt. He seems it's been absolutely great reports out of training camp so far about him and the job that he's done. So if he could just keep that up and he can, move that over into the season, that'll be great. And it's so funny, man. People forget Cam Taylor-Britt started the season last year not in the best health, right? He had a shoulder injury and all these different things going on for him. And the fact that that guy was still able to be a dog out there and play at a pretty adequate level, I would say. But now he's, entering into year two. We're expecting him to take the next step. Man, it's gonna be special. So
We got Matt Brewer
mhm,
asking, what do we think about the Bengals effectively swapping out Jesse Bates and
mhm.
Von Bell for the linebackers moving forward? Because he's saying, pay the linebackers, didn't pay the safeties. Is this a good move for the Bengals long term?
I think when you look at the roster construction, some of the things that they have done, seems like it is a good move. I understand the name of Jesse Bates and Von Bell, but if you think about it, man, Logan Wilson is a budding linebacker in the National Football League, and it's so hard to find, linebackers that can do it all on the football field, right? That can cover, that can tackle, that can be the leader of the defense. And I think that the fact that you're able to keep guys like Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson, keep that duo together, because I think that's a rising duo in the National Football League. The fact that they're able to keep them together is so special. But yeah, at first you probably look at it and you're like, damn, Jesse Bates, Von Bell, no longer here. But I love personally what the Cincinnati Bengals did. I still believe in Dax Hill. A lot of people are down on Dax Hill. I want you all to do me a favor. Go watch the Bengals take on the Buffalo Bills and look at the job that Dax Hill did in that game. Go look at the job that he did in that game when he was asked to cover tight ends and stuff like that. I think that Dax Hill is going to shock a lot of people and turn a lot of heads this year. Going back to his natural position of playing free safety, I think you'll see a lot of plays being made on that side of the ball, especially from a guy like Dax Hill. That guy is just a ball hawk. He's everywhere. So I'm excited for him. And if those of you who have tuned into the State of the Jungle presented by First Star Logistics, you guys know Jordan Battle is a guy that I will go to battle for. He's a guy that I really believe in. He's a guy that I think is going to turn a lot of heads, and I think the job is going to be his shortly.
So we almost have 100 people in here. If you guys can do us a huge favor, make sure just give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, you guys can drop down a comment below. We're going to get to every single comment and
Mhm,
question. We got our guy Michael Ruffin. 2 questions from him and Curtis Baldwin, both about T. Higgins.
mhm.
They're asking. He said, "I'm a little bit late, boys, but do you think we get a Higgins deal done after Joe Burrow?" And the other question is, do you think it's a long-term deal or could he be a franchise tag candidate?
I think they're going to really aim to get this deal done this offseason, guys. I mean, if T. Higgins doesn't deal was to not get done, he'd only become more expensive, the following year. And then you don't want to run the risk of him even sniffing free agency because that's when people start offering ridiculous amount of money for a receiver of his caliber. Make no mistake about it. T. Higgins is a number one wide receiver. T. Higgins is the number one wide receiver. We just have the ability, or the Bengals are just blessed to have a situation in which they have two number one wide receivers in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I think T. Higgins' deal gets done this offseason. I really do. I have a hard time seeing it not get done. And I think it would be a colossal F up if it wasn't to get done, especially considering all the moves that they've made to try to make this work.
Yeah, we get a lot of people saying that they love the job. Kyle Parker said, this front office is doing Lord's work. Hallelujah. So definitely happy. Our guy, Tom Castanova, said, I've been a Bengals fan for over 40 years. I keep my finger on the pulse of the team day in and day out. I would love to see them bring in a goal line back. What do you think about this, Malik? A goal line back a possibility for the Bengals, or do they stick with Mixon?
Their goal line back is Joe Mixon, man. Joe Mixon's a guy that I think, again, is going to take more strides this upcoming season. I'm excited. I almost feel like a broken record, and I kind of feel bad because I feel like I say it every single year, but I feel like this is going to be the best offensive line Joe Mixon's ever run behind. I think that Brian and Zach need to do a better job of trying to scheme different ways to get the running game to work for the offense. And that means what I mean by that. Of course, they're trying to do a great job, but I think that they need to probably go away from the under the center type thing. It seems like it's more effective running out of shotgun. And I know that's not traditional, but guess what? There's a lot of things that the Bengals are do that are non-traditional and breaking the mold and stuff like that. And I think that playing to Joe Mixon's strengths is something that I'd like to see them do a little bit more of. Mixon still got it. If he, people like to say, "Oh, it was just one game." Now, I saw a lot of flashes last year personally that it just seems like if he was to break one more tackle, one or two more tackles, he could be gone and hitting home run. But that game against the Carolina Panthers, one of the best defenses in football, that seems to get glossed over, if you will. that showed that he's still got a lot left in the tank. They just need to be more consistent with the running game, running out of shotgun, and doing a little bit more, not going away from it, the running game right away if it's not working.
So keeping with the running backs,
Mhm.
Brian Scott said, "What's going on with Chris Evans? He's talented, but he just can't seem to get on the field."
Yeah. I think that the big thing with this coaching staff is consistency, consistency, consistency. They want you to practice how you'll play. And they also want you to play how you practice, right? They want you to approach the game the same way, being consistent, and that's something that Zach Taylor always preached from the time that he got here. Wanted consistency, wanted consistency, wanted consistency. So I can't help but feel like there might be a little bit of consistency in terms of the Chris Evans avenue. We know he can make plays and stuff like that, but I also want to tell people, there sometimes people just don't practice well as well. I remember Mohamed Sanu, those were some things that I heard where he wasn't like the best practicer, but the guy was a gamer in the game. He would show up during the game. He had strong hands and stuff like that. But um, I think that it can't help but feel that it might be a little bit of that going on with Chris Evans.
So keeping with the running backs again,
Mhm,
Chase Brown, two
mhm,
questions. How
mhm,
does he look so far in camp?
mhm.
And do we think Chase Brown can secure the running back 2 spot while Travion is hurt?
I haven't heard too much about Chase Brown at camp. I might be going to camp, next week. I'll say this. I think there's an opportunity for him to secure the number 2 job, especially with Travion Williams going down with the ankle injury. So, it'll be nice to see if Chase Brown can secure that because you draft a guy, where you draft him with with hopes that he can grow into that.
We got the platypus again. He says, "Does this seem like the definitive end of some of those depth backers like Akeem Davis Gaither and Marcus Bailey?"
I hope not. And I don't know if it's necessarily that because I don't think that they're necessarily going to get the same exact money that a guy like Logan Wilson or even Jermaine Pratt would get. And I don't know if anybody will be beating down their door to pay them that because I think that teams still want to see the film, if you will. Teams still want to see the film. I know Akeem Davis Gaither is a guy that was highly touted, a guy that they really believed in, a guy that they believed they could use as a Swiss Army knife. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't. We haven't seen that consistency enough from him. But I do think that Akeem Davis Gaither still has more there. And I love Marcus Bailey. Every time that guy's on the field, I love. Remember, Marcus Bailey came in. If it wasn't for the ACL tears, he would have been a highly touted prospect as well. But yeah, I still like I still would like to see guys like Akeem Davis Gaither and Marcus Bailey stick on the roster because you still need that roster depth as well.
So when you look at, people are talking about Duke Tobin finally getting the praise that he gets, where would you rank him? Obviously, you don't have to give me a number or
Mhm.
anything, but where would you rank him among, other like top, front office executives?
I think a lot of executives in the National Football League overrated, to be honest with you guys. I think that some of them have like one or two good draft classes and they kind of like live and die by that. But I think that sometimes, you know, from a consistency level, you want to see more. I think that the Ravens general manager, what's his face? Not Ozzy, but the guy that's over for
Um,
Ozzy. I think that he does a fantastic job. Um, I think Seattle's GM does a good job. I was a fan of the Colts general manager as well, though it seems to be like he's taking a little bit of a step back lately. I think what's his name? Brandon Bean. I think he's a little bit overrated personally. And it's funny that he ridiculed the Bengals, but it's
Eric DeCosta for the
Eric DaCosta.
Ravens.
I like Eric DaCosta. He's from that same Ozzie Newsome tutelage, if you will. I think Joe Schoen is going to be a good general manager in the National Football League. I think that the Eagles GM is good as well. Yeah, there's going to be some more that come to me. I know for sure, but I definitely think that some general managers in the National Football League are a little bit overrated, and I think that it is time to put. I think Duke Tobin is definitely top seven for
Yeah.
sure.
So I've got two more, and then if
Mhm.
you want to get some other things, you definitely can. Brian Scott said, "I love what the team is doing, but I feel like they made a huge mistake not drafting a top tier tight end." And we got Fred Betts says, "I think if Irv Smith balls out, um, we're gonna re-sign him and he's gonna play good." What's your
Mhm.
thoughts, Bengals tight end room?
Um, I've been on record a little bit. I'm right there with you, brother. I think that they should have done more to address the tight end position. But they also have a boatload at wide receivers, which is what makes me think that they're very confident in their receiving room. I do think Irv Smith, if he can stay healthy, he's a boatload of potential, and he's a guy that a lot of people are high on. I'm excited to see. It seems like Irv Smith has made a lot of splash plays in practice. And we just now just need to see it in the game, and we now just need to see it consistently in the game. But if anybody can unlock some of these tight ends, it's definitely Joe Burrow. He got Hayden Hurst paid. He got CJ Uzama paid. Um, and yeah, I just think that's credit to the job that he's done to try to create a rapport with some of these guys. Drew Sample's still in the fold, Mitchell Wilcox still in the fold. So um, I still will say this. I probably will get ridiculed a little bit for this. I've said it a couple times on State of the Jungle. I wish Auden Tate would have just been more willing to make the move to tight end.
Mhm.
And I know that's not a position, but you could have looked at a guy like Darren Waller, who made that transition and came into the league as a wide receiver. Wasn't going to cut it as wide receiver, cut it as tight end, and did a great job. So that would have been insane to have him.
So one last question for you, just a little recap of the Logan Wilson. What
Mhm,
was your thoughts overall? Logan Wilson getting re-signed, 4 years, 32 million.
mhm.
Thoughts on Wilson getting re-signed?
Great move. Great move by the Cincinnati Bengals home run. He's a guy that, again, I always felt like if it came down to him or Jermaine Pratt, they would choose Logan Wilson. Luckily, they didn't have to be in a position to do that. Um, Again, love the move to get a guy like Logan Wilson there. I feel like he's underrated, underappreciated, not by the Bengals fan base, but just by the league as a whole. And I think that he's one of those budding stars at the linebacker position, and um, a guy that you want to keep.
Also, Brian's asking, you wanted Michael Mayer, right?
The one that got away. Turn on Katy Perry. I was a huge Michael Mayer guy, but everybody said he did everything good, just nothing's crazy, nothing insane, right? And that was sort of the theme with him. And usually, if you're drafting a tight end, you want a unicorn, you want a freak, you want somebody that's going to do something that's abnormal. And I think the Raiders got a good tight end in Michael Mayer. I really believe that. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. If you're new to the channel, we appreciate you for joining me on this impromptu live. Fred Betts, my guy, you're speaking right now. He said we need another three tech. I agree. I think the Bengals, that is another position that I would like to see them attack at some point, is getting another three tech in there. But I appreciate you guys joining me on the Sit Down with Malik Wright for an impromptu reaction to Logan Wilson signing's extension with the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, we are live every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, for State of the Jungle, live from the First Star Logistics studio. I'm live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Moving forward on Twitter every single morning at 10. We're going to shoot for 10:30 a.m. As I break down and talk all things sports with you guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in though with me, and I hope that you guys enjoyed the